We're live, buddy.
Hello.
Hey, I'm finishing up a video, so I'm just waiting for the others to get here so you can lead the chat in the meantime.
Hello, chatters. How's it going? Josiah, he uploads so many videos for you people. He is finishing up his uploads at the start of his podcast. That's pretty ridiculous. Unbelievable. You know?
Wildly unprofessional. Wildly.
You know, if all of Josiah's subscribers donated $10, he wouldn't have to work ever. He would have to work enough that you'd still get some videos, but like he wouldn't have to work so much.
Today is actually a light day because it's only 5 videos. I don't know if this is true or if I'm making this up. I'm pretty sure I've heard it somewhere and I may have experienced this, but my understanding is if you upload a video while you're live, there is the risk that the video performance will be undercut because you're going live and algorithmically it fucks with. I don't know if that's true.
I've heard this.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I have no idea. I guess the advantage of being a guy who just knows for a fact that he makes boring videos is that I just simply don't have to care about the algorithm. It's like, look, there's
oh shit, here's Hutch. God damn it. Hutch has been hanging out there for 7 hours waiting for somebody to let him in.
Literally 20 seconds.
God, yeah, but it was the longest 20 seconds of your entire life, no doubt.
It's the longest of my life. I need Hutch to be here. I don't like being in a room with Josiah.
I need Pisco to hurry up so I can let him in, and that way you all can talk while I pee and adjust the camera settings. Because that's the other thing, too. I don't know what you guys have, but, well, no, you have the same one I do, right, Econo Boy?
I've got the same exact setup, Josiah.
When you, like, what are your, I don't know what the fuck you call it, but, like...
Do you guys have the Sony, what is it? The
Sony
A600 or whatever?
6700, I think. Sony 6700.
I don't know which one I have. I have one of them.
Yeah. So I'm curious, though. Have you run into this issue where if you're streaming at 4K, even with a dummy battery, it shits out on you in like 30 minutes?
I have not ran into this issue.
Do you stream at 4K?
I think I do. I mean, your dummy well, like, it's just turning the camera off, or is it overheating? Or
I assume it overheats because it's just the screen goes black. The camera's still technically on, but it just like cuts off.
Yeah, I adjusted my heat settings on my camera. I don't know if you've already done that, but
I thought I did.
Yeah, because I had the problem. Well, it was the show that we had on the 3 Wonks with you, or it was my first show with the camera on, kept shutting off, and somebody was like, "Oh, you have to." I think it was a video I found or something. It was like, "Oh, you have to adjust the heat settings because the camera is like, not really, it's like a British person in the summer. It's like, oh my word, it's 75 degrees outside. I'm gonna melt, right?" That's kind of the Sony camera default settings. So,
but like sounding like a British person. If you don't mind, after this, if you can, number one, check your settings and see if you do, in fact, have the video settings at 4K and let me know. And then 2, what your heat settings are, because maybe there is something I'm missing or maybe there's an issue with the camera.
For sure. Finish uploading the video, Josiah.
I did. It's done. It's done now. It's just scheduled. It's going to drop in an hour and a half after we're done here. Where the is Pisco? Hutch, what is going on? Where is Pisco?
He said
we don't need
2
him.
minutes?
Weird said lawyer that 7 minutes ago. Jesus. This is why I don't like him all that much.
No, he said 2 minutes late. He said 2 minutes late.
Oh, 2 minutes late. Well, he's 4 minutes late.
Well, now he's 2 minutes.
Prick.
Now he's 2 minutes late from his 2 minutes late.
He's charging us for this time. He's not here. He's still billing us for it.
That's what he does.
He's going to expect a full hour.
He's probably talking to his girlfriend, his better half. Just because
fuck him, let's get this thing rolling. Yeah,
fuck him. Fuck this guy. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm gonna let you all recap the events of the evening. While number one, there he is. Perfect. Hey,
what up? How we doing?
2 minutos.
I'm sorry,
he's late.
You are minutes,
but
you are.
I have an excuse, folks. It was announced by my mom, so do not fact check me, because if my mom is wrong, that's on her. But I'm taking her as my source. That Alberto Fujimori, previous dictator of Peru, has died.
Oh,
And so I was kind of reeling from that news, and so that's why I was late.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun
Should we
fact:
send-
Peru used to have. Well, they still have a very powerful Japanese family in their politics. Pretty interesting fun
Yes.
fact.
And Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of Alberto Fujimori, has been in politics for a while, as well as her brother.
I'm gonna let you do guys some pre-show banter. I've got
Sure.
to pee, and I'm gonna change this. I'll be back in like 2
Yep.
minutes. An actual
Your
2
settings
minutes.
look way better, Josiah. Did you do
Taking
something?
a tinkle.
I am gonna take a tinkle. Yeah. So
Different lighting back there.
yeah. So I actually have these Amaran lights here that I probably could turn off the batteries. are
Amaran
not
or
dead.
Amaranth?
Amaran. Hey, I met her. I did
jars
a
of her farts.
I did a political event with
Oh.
Amaran.
You
Amaran.
did?
I did.
That's news to
did.
me.
It was after the what the fuck, the first debate, ironically
Yeah.
enough. So the timing could not be perfect.
Make sure you
and
wash
then-
your hands. Oh, sorry.
No. I refuse. Hang
Okay.
on. Can
What
you
happened
see
with
any of
Amaranth?
this? Can you see?
You don't
I'm
have
turning
to.
this
It's at
shit
your
on.
house. That's how it works.
Uh-oh.
You know,
Uh-oh, you see that? Look at that. Boom. Wait a minute. I'm so fucking boomer. I love it. Give me a second.
my name is Pisco, so I know a thing or two
Yeah.
about taking a pee.
I
Yep.
promise we will talk politics very soon. I have to pee, and we're gonna do some pre-show banter.
Yep.
So you see this?
Let
Like,
'em
wow,
pee.
look at that.
We see it. It looks
Woo!
comfortable.
And there's like
Cozy.
stuff up there
Good.
too. Yeah.
Release your
Somebody
fluids.
somebody in chat said there's missing a live laugh love sign. I'll be right back.
Banter wise, Econoboy, have you been trolling me for the whole week?
Yes, I have been. I have been trolling. Like sometimes it's just fun to troll. Even sometimes you have to do memes and trolling. In a primary system. People who agree with you politically, you got to troll them too, because only in a contentious meme primary system will the strongest memes on our side rise to the top.
Yeah, the meme war is currently fierce. We'll get into the actual debate memes, but there've been some quality content.
Would you call it a meme world war? Have we reached that point yet?
I would call this meme war 2, meme World War 1.
I got to
Okay.
give it to Kyle Kalinske. I fucking don't like him normally, but he had a solid meme last night. Hold on, let me show the stream. You guys can't see it.
Wait, is it the thing I think it is?
It's a
That's a
sexual.
solid meme.
Can I even show this on Twitch? Is this does this violate TOS?
No, I don't think it would.
Is he the one that
It might.
he invented that
might.
meme? I'm shocked.
No,
I
I
didn't
think
realize.
he stole it. But
Oh, okay. I was like, that
chat,
is
can I show
creative.
you a cartoon of Kamala having sex with Donald Trump? Is that
I'm willing to risk it if you are,
having
Hutch. You have
tender,
more to
loving
lose.
relations? No, I'm pretty sure you can't because they came out with those rules because of the. Remember, for like 2 seconds, they were like, "Yeah, you can just draw naked people," and then people went nuts drawing like full on
What about video
hardcore
games?
porn.
I don't remember that, but that's hilarious.
I'm
that
What
pretty
that
about
sure
video
this falls.
games? There's naked people in like all sorts of stuff.
That's true. You can, but I guess you just, no. But I'm pretty sure you can't show any kind of.
Okay.
I'm just not gonna.
Well,
I'm not gonna risk
Well,
it.
why
It's
don't we
fine.
describe it though? It's a image of Kamala Harris with her head superimposed on a person who is taking or having intercourse with someone with Trump's face superimposed on them.
It's a remix of it's like a right wing meme where it's like a soyed out skinny guy fucking his chubby non-binary looking girlfriend. And then they superimpose Kamala and Donald Trump's face on it.
I've seen that meme. It's a quality meme, I would say.
Yeah.
I think you could you show that on stream? That's a great question. I'm actually
What if like
more that I think
there's
about it,
no
I'm not
way
sure.
there's no way that's gonna happen. Just in case. We can just
Josiah's
you
in the big leagues. He's interviewing
first-
the biggest cats.
Yeah.
First ever quadruple ban on Twitch as our restream gets taken down. You gotta risk it for the biscuit. I'm willing to go for it.
Yeah, but there's no biscuit at the end of that worth of the risk it part. So I'm afraid not. However,
The key is Josiah. Most important
folks,
topic.
Well, no, I don't want to trigger like Pisco's gonna have a rage aneurysm if we talk about the keys.
Here's what I think we should do just to start the the pod.
Sure.
I want letter grades from all of you guys for Kamala and Trump.
Trump
wants
was
to
an F.
start?
Trump, I'll do it. Trump was an F. Kamala was a B plus, A minus, probably B plus.
Yeah, I would say, the thing is, we do grade on a curve in terms of our performance because it's all about expected performance in debates, in my opinion. In that regard, I give Trump a D. I'll give him a D grade. I don't think he passed. He didn't get a C. He didn't quite meet expectations. He did even worse by his own standard. I'll give him a D for that reason. And then Kamala, I'd go B plus. I'd go B plus, A minus.
I'm gonna go. I agree with the B plus. I think that that's fair. I think that what really is driving my reaction to this being an absolute victory and a great situation is Trump gets an F, an obvious F, a low F, an F minus. I think that he failed on all cylinders, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, that's what most excited me about this entire thing.
And the lone Trump supporter on the panel.
I think you guys are afraid of looking like too partisan. I think she gets. I've changed my mind actually. I think she gets a straight A, if not an A plus.
Wow.
And I think Donald, and we can get into it. And I think Donald Trump. Look, I think he gave the second worst debate performance in modern history. The first one obviously being Biden. Especially his question about the healthcare thing, where he said he had a concept that was like a historically bad moment. So I don't know how I can give him anything other than an F. But the reason why I'm giving her an A, guys, and tell me, let's get into this, okay? I think she went in there with a game plan, and I think she executed on that game plan basically perfectly.
So the reason that I can't give her an A is not. I was amused. I love hearing the idea that Josiah is afraid to look too partisan. That's the first time I've ever heard that in my life. Would like to hear it more. The truth is, it was an imperfect performance, particularly right out the gate. She was visibly, palpably nervous. I went into that. I live streamed the debate with Luke Beasley, and I remember making the prediction for the first time in my life that I was very optimistic about a presidential debate, particularly since I'm so cynical. And then in the first 5 minutes, I had to turn my face off because the first 5 minutes I'm like, oh fuck.
You turned off cam?
No. I had to contort my face in such a way as I had a mini stroke. I could give nothing away, but inside I was in full blown panic for the first 5 minutes.
Problem,
that's a
no. It's not a me problem. She was clearly nervous. It was so obvious. You could hear her swallowing on the microphone.
I don't think
I'm not gonna pretend. Go back and listen to it. You just like
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
The only reason I'm nitpicking on this is because you're asking me why it wasn't perfect, because there were imperfections.
I agree with that moment. That was an imperfection. She started out nervous. I agree with that characterization. And
hold on, stop. I'm sorry. Chat real quick because they're calling me out. Would Josiah not be nervous? Of course. And I would also, in such a situation, be deserving of a B plus. Anybody, I imagine.
You guys are calling it
just the intro. For just the intro?
I mean, no. There were other things as well. I mean, we could go into some examples. During her answers, she was a bit labyrinthine in some of her answers.
Yeah.
She threw in. She
can't
threw
just
in
make up words.
That's a word, buddy.
It is a word. It's in fact a word.
What's that word? What does it mean?
Labyrinth.
Convoluted.
Like a maze.
Yeah, convoluted.
Labyrinthine. Is that the word?
Labyrinthine, as in relating to a labyrinth.
Like the Greek.
Oh, I'm stealing that one. I'm gonna sound so smart.
You should. So she
I'm just delighted at that word.
was clearly uncomfortable with some of her answers. She misspoke several times. Again, the palpable nervousness. So again, she's not a master rhetorician on par with a Pete Buttigieg or a Gavin Newsom, and I'm not going to pretend that she is. She was imperfect, but clearly the victor. B plus performance. She did very well, particularly under the circumstances. And with respect to laying the traps, she nailed it. But it was not a perfect performance. I can't pretend that it is.
I want to let Econoboy go because I think there'll be a lot of similarities with Josiah. I have something to add, but I think Econoboy was a little less.
And I have a rebuttal.
Yeah, you were like a little bit less positive about it.
Well, yeah, I think that overall, one of the reasons why I'm not overly ecstatic about it is because these debates really don't, especially at this point in the race, especially with the kind of performance that I was expecting from Kamala, they don't really have an ability to adjust my personal expectations that much for the end outcome of the election. Again, I think that Kamala gets a small bump from this, half a point, something like that. Maybe with a truly optimal performance, she would have gotten 2 points, 3 points, something like that. But that's like 1% of the time she performs that well. Just probabilistically speaking. And so that's probably why I'm not as super duper positive on it. Now, to be fair, in a relative sense, she did perform extremely well in this debate. I mean, you look at the polling, 63-37, Kamala is the winner on this one. That's actually pretty unbelievable because it definitely taps into Trump's base. I saw a separate poll that said that a third of people who planned to vote for Trump actually said that Kamala won. And I saw a New York Times sort of panel of various voters, and the only shift amongst that panel was from people who were supporting Trump that went to undecided or flipped to Kamala, or people who were undecided that flipped to Kamala. And perhaps more importantly, people who were already going to vote for Kamala, who were even more certain they were going to vote for Kamala. So like entirely, for the 60, 70 million people who watched it, definitely a very good impression from Kamala. But ultimately, I don't think the bump is going to be that big from this debate. And like Josiah said, there are probably some specific things that weren't totally optimal.
All right. You know what? You know when you flip a coin to like make a decision and you get the wrong decision and then you change your mind because you see what has been said and you want the thing that you didn't have? You know that situation? I'm being convinced by Hutch's face of like skepticism, and I am going to bump it up to an A-. And this is why. Okay. I'm going to start with the negative and then go positive. Okay. Here's why I start with negative. The slow start is one of the most important things to do, and she did look nervous. That much is irrefutable, completely irrefutable.
Knees weak.
Wait, what? What? There was a fucking imperfection? Oh my god! Just exactly what I said, thus proving me objectively correct.
You're objective. You're perfect. Yeah. Okay, hey,
that's
you're
right.
blowing up.
My argument here was an A+ argument because you just conceded it.
How many DMs has Josiah gotten? Be like, hey man, you're really blowing up lately. Ballpark it, Josiah, right now. About nobody. 50.
No, stop it.
Yeah. I bet you get that comment all the time, and you're always right, of course. Who can be wrong with the channel that's blowing up? But anyway, yeah. The slow start, I think, definitely took some points away. I think that she definitely had a game plan that Hutch is going to allude to, and I'm going to elaborate further a little bit more. But she could have looked like she was answering the question a little more than she did. So, for example, when she's talking about her position swaps, I think that she doesn't need to say a complete about face, but there could be a way to answer those questions where it appears that you're answering it more closely in the first sentence, and then go back into your actual game plan. And other negatives include not being as sharp on some of the answers and letting some domination occur in terms of the taking of the last word on particular topics. I think that was an unforced error. And then also some of the specific lack of call outs. So there were a couple times where I think that she should have just deferred time or asked a simple question to Trump in a way that wasn't as meandering. It felt like oftentimes, I think labyrinthine is the perfect word for it. She felt like it kept going when she could have ended maybe a few seconds before. That's all the negatives. But here are the positives. She did have a strategy, and we talked about it a little bit on Hutch's stream last night. And it's kind of a cliche at this point, but the kind of modular answer and then the specific dig and bait for Trump, and that worked to a T. And so as I was starting to think about it, and as I was hearing Econoboy and Josiah's answers, I'm like, at first I was only factoring all of Trump's negatives, and that was what's mostly driving my score. But those negatives maybe don't happen if you don't have a Kamala Harris who has a plan to elicit those negatives and to elicit those really, really bad moments. And so that's kind of, I think, why I was bumped up as I started to think about the plan, that this was all a result of her strategy, that we got to see Trump as poorly as we did.
Yeah, I think she was surgical. I mean, really surgical. It was obvious that she was very well prepared. The way that she handled the answers to her questions, I thought, was just a master class in manipulating your opponent. In chess, there's a term called tempo, and it means that you make moves that your opponent has to respond to. And they did an analysis of how much time each candidate was spent attacking the other candidate. And she had considerable more time attacking him than she had for her, which is unexpected considering that she's essentially the incumbent. She's not technically the incumbent, but she's the incumbent party right now. I disagree with you when you say there were certain moments where she I felt like she could have stepped in and said, I need to respond to that, but she just let it go to the next question. I think you alluded to that, Pisco.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like it in the beginning, but then I started to understand, like, wait, she's using this opportunity to, like, that's less time of her, like, playing defense. And so she just let it go to the next question. And she would answer a question and she would, like, little stuff, like she specifically referenced the Wharton School of Business
Yeah.
To criticize Trump, which is his alma mater. And what did he do? He took the bait. And so, like, in every single answer that she gave, it was obvious that there were very deliberate, intentional, pre-planned jabs for every single topic. And he took the bait every single time. So instead of spending 2 minutes, attacking her, he's spending the first minute talking about, like, no one's walking out of my crowds. Everyone's super, no one's bored at my rallies. And it just made him look weak. It made him look fragile. It made him look insecure. And you guys are talking about her nerves. Oh, I think you had the wrong read. I think that was adrenaline. I think she was in killer mode in that moment. So she was
after a few questions, you could see she changed.
Not even a few questions. She gave her first answer and then it went to him and she immediately looked at ease, comfortable, confident. She started the debate by walking over to his side, looking at him in the eyes the entire time, shaking his hand. I'm telling you, she had a surgical game plan and I don't know how she could have executed more perfectly. A few small stumbles to me does not justify taking it down to a B+. That was an A performance right there.
Okay, I don't know. Obviously, all this stuff is subjective. When I hear A+, I guess I hear about perfect or asymptotically perfect. I said A- or B+. I'm in that area, and I don't want to belabor the point too much. But if you acknowledge that the performance had flaws, which it obviously did, then it's just a matter of where you draw the line. In terms of adrenaline, that also manifests in terms of, like, nervousness. When you're nervous, you have adrenaline coursing through you. It's the same chemical, no matter if it's like rage or fear. It's the same chemical no matter what. I think she was clearly nervous. Even when she went up to shake his hand, I thought that was a big dick move. I think that was awesome that she did that. They've never met prior to it. That doesn't mean she was, like, effortless. Again, that wasn't Gavin Newsom swag on stage until 20 minutes in. Then
I disagree. I think the handshake was totally calm and totally alpha. She might have been feeling a way. It didn't come across until I got nervous when I heard her speak and her voice falter a little bit and her eyes water up. That's when I felt a little bit about the nerves.
I think she was
interesting. That's so interesting. When she started talking for me, I immediately felt better. I was a wreck. For like 2 hours going into the debate, I was a wreck. I took a couple Xanax as prescribed, and because I just don't like feeling like that. I get really engaged in this stuff. I'm telling you, the first 30 seconds she spoke up, I'm like, oh, she's fine. And then it went over to him, and she's sitting there looking at him intently the whole time with a smile on her face. I genuinely think that she was enjoying herself at that moment. Some people really thrive,
but then it really did feel like she was enjoying herself.
I think the nervousness was not a debate-wide problem. I think we would all agree with that. I would say that within the first, like, 5 or 10 minutes, it was fine. But I said the same thing about Biden in their debate. Like, if you compare the second half of the Biden-Trump debate to the first half, Biden did better, right? He did probably substantially better. However, I kind of disproportionately weight, of course, the first 5 or 10 minutes because there's so many people. It's like watching a YouTube video. Look at your analytics. It's like, 80% of people click off after the first, like, 10% of the video or something like that, right? Some crazy like that. And so the debate's going to be no different. You're going to see a lot of people that watch literally just opening statements, literally just within 10 minutes. And so, I think that's why I grade the nervousness as the beginning to the point that it, goes down an entire letter grade, goes down to a B+. But, that's
you mess up on your cover email or your cover letter, there's a typo in the first sentence kind of deal. Is that's kind of the feeling I'm getting from you, Josiah and Nakano Boy.
100%.
And I think Hutch is like
Isn't that a crazy standard to hold people to? Like, can you
I
find me
I,
a single?
I already said I was putting it on a curve. She's great on
No,
a curve.
no, I don't think it's a crazy standard. What's funny is chat saying that too.
God.
I don't believe. Let me be very clear. When it comes to like grading or evaluating films or music or whatever, I tend to grade harshly. It's very rare. I'm not the sort of guy to hand out an A+ movie. That's very, 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 very rare because everything has flaws and the flaws matter to me. So just to be clear, because people are like, oh, anybody would be nervous in that situation. I agree that the vast majority, if not the totality of people in her position at that debate, maybe one or two exceptions, would also be really fucking nervous. That changes nothing for me. That just means they too would have gotten a B+ in her position.
I'd have
Well,
done fine.
But isn't that? I think there's another way to look at this, though. I'm gonna try to be nice and say, like, I respect your opinion, okay? But let me alter.
All right, let's go. Let's go, baby.
Let me
Lower the
offer an alternative way to look at this, okay? These circumstances are entirely unprecedented. 8 weeks ago, or 9 weeks ago, or however long the debate was, I'm sure she probably had very little indication that she was going to step into the role. As maybe the thought crossed her mind, but I think she was probably going along with everybody else, like it's going to be Biden in November. In that time, she has become essentially the most famous person on earth, and not only that, she had so much more to lose than he did in that debate. If she would have had even really like a minor slip up, or she really kind of fell on her face at any point in that debate, she would have been dissected. I don't think Trump. I agree with Pisco that I don't know if the actual numbers are going to shift that much. I do think the margins matter, and so I think in that respect, this debate matters. But the fact that she took all of that pressure, and really, when we think about it, like there are few examples in human history that you can think of where there's like more high stakes, and she took that moment and she adjusted to that adrenaline within like 3 minutes, and then perfectly executed on her plan. I think that's like. I think what impresses me is that she had that surge of adrenaline and then she just immediately looked totally comfortable, confident, and poised. It's how she reacted to that adrenaline, which I think gives, like, I see that as like something to actually add to her score instead of subtract.
I think it just comes down to a different standard. You are basically making the case that she took an obvious flaw, which maybe you have not recognized yet that she was nervous. I don't know if you finally said that, yes, you did acknowledge she was nervous up front, but the three of us, but the three of us and the rest of chat saw it. So to me, what you're saying is
Good point.
She took an obvious flaw and adapted to it. That doesn't erase the flaw. I think you made a very compelling case that she's very good at taking a flaw and mitigating it. But the fact that a flaw is there means by definition, it was not perfect.
Hutch, can I say one thing? I think what I'm hearing from Hutch, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Hutch, is that adrenaline, everything you saw after that nervousness or what perceived nervousness was a function of her being prepared and having adrenaline. And so you couldn't have the kind of high energy, high value performance that you saw if you weren't going to have some jitters at the very start. It's like any other kind of Broadway performer. Everyone kind of gets nervous right at the beginning. I don't know if that's at all what you're saying, Hutch, but that's kind of what I'm hearing.
I'm saying that the fact that she got nervous, I don't view that as a flaw. I'm saying that is something that is just built into the human condition. Literally everybody's adrenaline is going to spike in that situation. And it took her mere minutes to turn that adrenaline into, she had the face of a killer, like right away. She looked so poised. It's not just that she was prepared. She was confident. Like she was confident, like right. You could just see it on her face. Like she went into fucking like killer mode. And that to me, it's like, that's exactly the quality that you want in a president. Like when a president gets some news, like some international crisis is about to kick off, their adrenaline is gonna kick in and they're gonna get jitters right away. You want someone who's gonna react to those jitters in like 1, 2, 3 minutes and then just get focused. Okay, what do we got to get done? And then show leadership. And that to me, that is exactly what she did. And that's why I say that I think that deserves for her to get like good marks for that instead of just, oh, it's a flaw that she had adrenaline. I just don't agree with that at all.
I understand. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'll just say in summation, my grade for her is still pretty high. It's just not as high as yours. I think it was an imperfect performance, and the fact that the vast majority of other people would have also demonstrated at least that imperfection doesn't change it. An imperfection is an imperfection to me, be it movies, music, debate, performance, whatever. So yeah, that's where I stand on. I think overall she killed it, and I think Donald Trump failed spectacularly. As a matter of fact, if we had a grade lower than F, he'd be
Call it
much lower than
G.
that.
Trump got
Yeah.
a G for me.
He'd
Should we get to
probably be
Trump
like an
or substance?
I. He'd probably be like an I. It was that bad. It was just a
He looks
disaster.
nervous and uncomfortable the whole time. He looked like he was just trying
Yeah.
to. He looked like he was just trying to get through that, and it didn't. Of course, it doesn't shock probably any of us that he's now saying that he doesn't want to do another debate, and he's claiming victory.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I gave him a G because of the following, and I want to hear Econo Boy's response. I think that visually and optically, at many key points in the debate, more towards after the first 5 or 6 minutes, he seemed unhinged. He seemed like his mind wasn't all there. Like he was just saying random things. He was winging it. He looked bad. He was like pouting, looking at the camera, never looking at Kamala. He seemed to shrink almost visually and optically. The words he was saying didn't make any sense. He wasn't offering any policy solutions, save for like tariffs, I think, but not truly. I think we got into a little bit on X about tariffs. Actually, not that much, but that was the only concrete policy position he had. And he didn't really seem comfortable with all that. And so in general, I think he looked unhinged. He didn't offer any positive project, and he spouted lies, and he didn't really answer the questions either way. So I don't know how you can't give that anything above a failing grade, whether it's an F or a G.
Well,
Somebody
yeah, I
in
mean,
chat said L. Sorry, just that would probably be that'd be the most appropriate letter. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Econo Boy.
like again, me personally, I'm grading it on a curve, right? So I think that a passing grade for Trump would be like maybe the performance he gave in the first presidential debate against Hillary Clinton, just kind of like generally unhinged, right? Definitely pretty meandery, pretty fiery performance. Certainly sparring with the media a little bit, probably the moderators a little bit. That's kind of like your baseline. That's your baseline expectation for Trump. And I think that he fell below that expectation. But I think for Trump to like truly fail, he would have to sort of blow those expectations negatively out of the water, right? And I don't really think he did that in this performance. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of clips of him saying totally unhinged things. I think that there's a combination of things that lead to him to fail below expectations, not all of which are like endogenous to him. I mean, some of it's going to be Kamala's strategy. Part of it is like she baited him. She knows that in part by baiting him, she's forcing, like you said, Trump to play defense or counterattack a lot more than he otherwise would. It's part of the reason why, some of the mainline attacks on Kamala didn't even get mentioned in this debate. Oh, she got communist price controls. Oh, she's going to tax unrealized gains. That's terrible. Oh my goodness. This kind of thing. None of that stuff even gets brought up in this debate. In part, maybe because Trump just like doesn't understand those things. He didn't prep on them. He's lazy, but also in part because she's baiting him into talking about other things. I think as well.
I think that's a really good point, Econo Boy. And it's one I think that people are not, the copers. And if there's any copers in the chat, I'm sorry, this applies to you. There's like a bunch of people who are like, why didn't the moderator ask about X? Why didn't the moderator tell this? Like they should have talked about this. I'm sorry. This is a debate. You find a way to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. Trump has had no difficulty in the past going to something that's totally undermine. And so I think what Econo Boy, what I heard there a little bit was, failing to go after certain places. Yeah, he wasn't asked directly about unrealized gains. He wasn't asked directly about some of the other policy proposals maybe that he mentioned. But that isn't an excuse for Trump. Trump needs to bring that up regardless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kamala in her opening statement brought up the Trump 20% sales tax. At least that's what they're calling it, right? His tax plan. So obviously it was trivially easy for him to bring it up. But I think that the last thing that I was going to say is that something that Trump has never done, he's never run against somebody that wasn't like a legacy politician, right? Biden had been around for 50 years, right? So many attacks, like mainline attacks on him were just kind of known at the point of running against him the first time and the second time. Hillary had been around for a billion years as well, like for a very long time, very publicly. All the scandals. There's no maybe there's no stone unturned for the most part when it comes to Hillary and all of her scandals that are out there, right? And obviously, you could also say maybe in some regards they're inherently more controversial people than Kamala or Tim Walz. But those mainline attacks don't seem to be working on Kamala. It's not as controversial stuff. Same thing with Tim Walz. It doesn't really seem to be landing. And to the extent that Trump has like instinctual attacks on Kamala, he can't really bring them up during the presidential debate because, you know, saying she's pretending to be black or she slept her way to the top.
Didn't
These are
seem to
not
stop
things.
him.
Destiny. It was funny. He had this banger line from his debate coverage yesterday that it cracked my girlfriend up. It was when she hit him on the rallies and he wouldn't stop talking about the rallies.
Yeah.
Destiny paused and he says, "I swear to God, if she hits him on the rallies one more time, he's gonna drop the N-word on live TV." Like, you know, it was on the tip of his tongue. Like, but
I don't know that it was. You think it was on the
Yep.
tip of his tongue?
Well,
it's probably a slight exaggeration.
That's the
but
thing, though, right?
I
Like-
imagine he wanted to be more racist and misogynistic in his responses than he was, which is saying something.
I want to put something else out there. Okay, I'm gonna give you another reason to try to. I'm gonna try to convince you to bump it up to at least firm A minus. Okay. It is just, I think all of us understand and recognize that a woman is going to have to be much more calculated in her aggression in that kind of a moment. Donald Trump, he can be as belligerent as he wants to be, and a lot of people are not going to think twice about that. She had to make a calculation, and I'm sure she did this in her prep. Like, I'm sure she gave like 5 or 6 different ways to answer a question and then got feedback from her team. I'm quite confident that they did that level of detail for these kinds of answers. And she had to decide, like, you know, some of her, like, I thought her answer on abortion was really strong. Like, she took him to task. Like, she firmly put it at his footsteps, like the suffering that's going on in a lot of these states now. January 6th, she did a really good job of attacking him on that. But she had to restrain herself a little bit. In fact, there was one moment in the debate, I don't know if you guys picked up, I swear to God, she almost called him a fucking idiot. Like, she was like, this former president, and like, bro, you know, and you can see like she's taking it down a notch. So she had to do that like, she has to contend with something that Donald Trump just didn't. And I think she did find really the right exact balance of like how aggressive to get without looking like an angry black woman to like a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you something on this. Let me see
Well,
how far.
let me clarify. I'm sorry. Let me clarify. I don't have those kinds of biases. I'm just saying.
No, I understand. No, listen. This is something that I made in a pre-debate. This is a point I made in a pre-debate conversation with Steven. It's something that I talked about with Luke when we streamed it. Yeah, the expectations are considerably higher for women just due to misogyny in this country. Secretary Clinton suffered from this as well. Vice President Harris, I think, got hit with it hard when she ran as vice president. You know, like, you could see that the expectations and the pressure of running. Peace, what the hell are you doing?
I'm trying
to get his camera to focus.
I was like, what are you doing? And I think even Hillary Clinton's talked about this too, that she feels so much more relaxed and able to be herself now that she's no longer in office. Like, her speeches and her public engagements since dropping out of politics professionally have radically changed because the expectation is just so high. I totally take your point. But let me ask you. So I saw the other day on Twitter, and I like this. You and I share a love for Andor, the Star Wars TV show. What would you grade Andor on a letter grade scale or on a scale of 1 to 10?
10. I'd give it a 10.
See, this is a great example. I agree with everything you said, how it's easily the best Star Wars TV show, at the bare minimum, the best piece of Star Wars since 1980. And I have said before, I could make the case that it's just the best piece of Star Wars ever. And I don't grade it out of a 10. It's a 9 out of 10 for me, because that final level is no discernible flaw. And that's just how my scale has always been. Be it my favorite bands, like I love Journey and Def Leppard. There's no 10 out of 10 Journey album. There's no 10 out of 10 Def Leppard. It's just, that's me. So I'm so freaking strict with how I grade things. But again, I said A minus, B plus. I could be moved to A minus, but it's not. It is not an A plus. It will never be an A plus, and I don't think any politician, for that matter, has given a truly A plus debate performance.
Chris Wallace. I don't know if you saw his take, but he said that he thinks that this was a knockout blow to Trump, and he thinks that she just blew him out of the water. And yeah, I just totally agree.
Oh no, 100%. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. I totally agree. Let's be clear. I totally agree. She blew him out of the water, but I think she blew Trump. Trump got an F. If I have an F in class and you have a B plus in class, you blew me out of the water. Like I there again, it's kind of a subjective scale. It sounds like to you blowing out of the water is reserved for A or A plus. And that's not it for me. But again, I take your point on the gender and race expectation.
Did you guys see Adam and Sitch's analysis?
Oh my God, no! I
don't talk about those people. They're negative.
I knew Trump's performance was bad when Rob Noor said that Trump lost the debate. Clearly, he said Kamala clearly won, and I was like, that's how you know it's breaking out. I think I sent you guys also the R Conservative subreddit's discussion thread on it. They were all, it was like unanimous, neutral, unanimous. Trump did bad. So pretty much nobody, even in that subreddit, is saying that Trump did very well. And so, yeah, Trump, he certainly, it wasn't a good night for him, obviously. So
that said, Econoboy, it's funny you say that. There are some people who think differently or think that his bad performance is due to factors outside of their control. Now, I have to be honest with you folks, we don't get personal a lot, but I've suffered from the throes of addiction, and I was addicted for a while to copium. And in fact, every day I was huffing large canisters of copium. Mm-hmm. But even me, someone who's very familiar with the dangers of substance abuse, when I'm seeing this moderator cope in the replies, in the MAGA forums, all that stuff, it brings to me a new level of profound sadness that I've never experienced before. Those of you who are honestly saying, oh, but the moderators, number one, it's the biggest red flag that you lost the debate, number one. Because everyone, whenever you lose the debate, you're blaming the moderators. All the Biden bros back at the first debate were like, oh, the moderators this, the moderators that. And you guys all remember it because we were here. But more than that, there were difficult questions for Harris that were phrased in a bad way for Harris, 100%. She just handled them way better.
Right out the gate. This is something, again, I think it needs to be emphasized. The CNN interview that she had with Governor Walz and this debate, they all asked the vice president a tough question. The very first question was posed to the vice president, and it was a tough question because I'm paraphrasing here, but it was effectively, hey, everyone in fucking America thinks that 2020 was better than any year of your administration. Why does your administration suck? And do you want to tell the American people why they've got it wrong? It was why do so many people think it was better 4 years ago, and do you disagree? That's a tough question because the moderator is teeing up the vice president to contradict a majority of Americans, according to the polls. That's a tough question. They hit her on so-called flip-flopping. Hey, your positions have changed over the span of 5 years. Do you want to talk about why you're such a fucking flip-flopper? That's a tough question, especially when Donald Trump has famously flip-flopped on issues, not just over the span of 5 and 9 years, but also most recently on abortion in the span of 24 hours. He didn't get hit with that goddamn question. They could have easily said, now, having asked the vice president that question, Mr. President, you are also a notorious flip-flopper. And blah, blah, blah. So, yes, to Pisco's point, this idea that it was a 3v1 or is a softball for the vice president is just bullshit. She was and also, I'm sorry, Gaza. That might be the biggest one still. She is yet again asked in front of God and country to contradict, to defy, to criticize her current boss, the president of the United States. Nobody wants to be in that position. So no, it was not a softball at all. And anyone who says otherwise is a fucking liar.
I totally agree. I just wanted to say one thing. So there's an example in the chat. I'm fixing my settings, guys. I don't know what's going on. There's an example in the chat of like, what about guns? The main issue is guns. Okay, that's perfect. If you want the issue to be guns, you make it about guns. It's so easy. So the first time Kamala Harris says, we're all about freedoms and we should have freedoms not be governed by certain things from the government. You say, oh, really, Kamala? You want to talk about freedoms not being done for the government? I know for a fact that you have been in support of all sorts of legislation that absolutely undermines the rights of the American people. For example, you're in support of mandatory buybacks and you fundamentally hate the Second Amendment. Also, by the way, there were little digs and points about the Second Amendment, so much so that Kamala Harris had to say, I'm a gun owner. And so don't pretend that the options weren't available for Trump to bring up whatever the hell he wanted. Anything about the subject matters being discussed or the topics being raised is pure copium. The one thing you can say is the quotes, like when they bring up a quote or when they bring up a fact, because that's presented as more neutral. But I think the evidence shows they brought up harmful contradictions / bad framings for both candidates. And I just think that that's abundantly clear. And one candidate handled it better.
Trump's team, I believe, said something like, well, he's actually not even doing a lot of debate prep. And I didn't believe them. I thought they were just kind of trying to, throw her off the scent or whatever. Now I totally believe that. To your point, Pisco, she took so many positions in 2019 that were like, to the left of Bernie. Like she was trying to attack the primary from the left flank, which is, the reason why she lost. She just didn't have the same name recognition as Bernie or Elizabeth Warren, but she took so many like super left-wing positions, and he barely really even touched on any details. Like whenever he would go after her, he was always talking in generalities, like, oh, she's a Marxist, and he never really got into specifics. He had so many missed opportunities to attack her on positions that would be a liability for the current like median voter. And that's on him. Like he just completely fucked up. But if we're going to steel man a little bit, there was a moment where she said, for example, that the last administration saddled Biden with the highest unemployment since the Great Depression. That's not true. We had higher unemployment during the Great Recession. And maybe she misspoke, but that would have been an opportunity for the moderator to step in and fact check. I think that they were probably like very prepared to fact check, just because when we're talking about like election interference stuff, that's something
you had
that
greater
like,
unemployment during the Great Recession.
Yeah. Unemployment got up to like, I believe got up to 10 or 11%, or real briefly, but yeah. But yeah, there were opportunities for them to fact check her. The issue is that the things that they did fact check him on were just egregious lies, like,
and predictable. Hutch. The thing is, Trump isn't that much of a wild card. Sometimes he can be very predictable. That's why, for example, you guys referenced it before, Kamala's line about abortion, where she's like, she didn't want that, they didn't want that. That framing was good because they knew that he's been saying for like the past months, everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted this. People were telling me they wanted it. And so he's quite predictable. And the reason that they had the fact check ready on the dog and cat story is because he's predictable. He falls into these patterns, and he reads fake news, and he talks about it. And so people are able to predict him. The unemployment line, that's a little bit more esoteric. It's in the weeds, like that kind of fact check isn't so easy to do on the fly compared to the shit that everyone's preparing for Trump, because they're whoppers.
Yeah, so real quick, a couple of things. A couple of people in chat really objected to my description of the president as the vice president's boss. So constitutionally, in the sense that the president can't fire the vice president, that is true. But of course, I've had bosses before who don't have plenary power to fire me. I've had supervisors where I have to do what they say, even though they don't have the ability to fire me. In terms of the practical roles of the vice president as a creature of the executive branch, yes, of course, the president is the vice president's boss, especially because they're typically appointed by the same party. The president's the head of the party. The president is the head of the executive branch. The vice president's duties, outside of having a pulse and presiding over certain ceremonial functions of the Senate, any executive branch duty that they have is totally 100% the pleasure of the president of the United States. So, yes. Doesn't matter who it is, not just this vice president. Not sure why people are getting offended. The president of the United States is effectively the de facto boss of the vice president. Of course,
she kind of has to walk. She kind of has to walk a little bit of a fine line, because like it makes sense tactically for her to try to take partial credit for some of the Biden wins. But at the same time, if you're going to take credit for the wins, then people can attack you for the things that didn't go well. But that's just something worth pointing out.
That helped her. So good.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, just to expand on what Josiah said, the vice president's job is to be a cheerleader for the president. Like, they can influence policy. Obama and Biden famously clashed over like Afghanistan stuff, but at the end of the day, the vice president's job is essentially to be a surrogate for the president and to be there in case they can't do the job.
Yeah. Now, again, if you want to say constitutionally, because the president doesn't have the ability to fire the vice president, you're free to make that case. But I guarantee you, if you ask every living vice president of the United States, hey, was the president of the United States your boss? They'd be like, yeah, basically, of course. If the
Maybe not
president
Cheney.
gives the vice president an order, well, yeah, he's the power behind the throne. But if the president of the United
West
States
Wing
gave
line.
an order,
I know your West Wing line. I know what you're referencing.
say what?
I know what you're thinking about. Because you watch the West Wing.
Of course, I've watched the West Wing, but what do you think I'm thinking about?
Let me consult Article 2, but I don't see where your boss has the right to direct me to the men's room.
Or no, what he said was this office, because that was the White House chief of staff saying, that if you hear this from CJ, the press secretary, you should see it as an instruction from this office. Yeah. So
were you thinking about that? Yes or no?
Yes, of course.
Busted West Wing Democrat.
Well, listen, it doesn't map on perfectly because, again, that's the White House chief of staff. But anyway, that is precisely how vice presidents see it, and that is one of the biggest reasons why no vice president is going to publicly contradict the president of the United States. So
that's not true, Josiah. You see, we had one. we did have a pretty devastating moment during the debate where I think the moderators brought up. Was it the moderators or was it Kamala? One of them brought up
moderators.
It was the moderators. Your vice president said you would veto Roe v. Wade protections. And then Trump's like, you could see it. It was like, oh God, I should have really spoken to my vice presidential candidate.
It was so bad, Econoboy, because think about this. You have to prepare. Your whole campaign has to walk this fine line. You know you're getting killed on abortion. And so you walk this line and you have a strategy and you develop it and you think, okay, we're now in the position where if there were a national thing, we're gonna go all in on states' rights. And if there's a national thing, we're gonna say we would veto it. And JD Vance, following that directive and following that lead, follows what the campaign says. And Donald Trump completely undermines that entire strategy in 5 seconds out of a whim, but in the worst possible way, because as Econoboy highlighted, it not only means he's inconsistent, it means he does not have a relationship with JD Vance. That's what everyone's seeing. I haven't talked to him about it. You haven't talked about abortion with your running mate? One of the main issues of this campaign. You haven't discussed it with JD Vance? You haven't discussed what your answer is to these questions you know are going to come up? That was so bad. I think it's such a great point, Econoboy.
That was one of my favorite moments for the debate. I'd love to hear what you guys' sort of discrete favorite moments were. That was probably one of my favorites. My second favorite was, of course, the clip that's making the rounds. They're eating the dogs. I mean, that was obviously one of the best moments. That was one of the best moments in all of presidential debate history. Okay. Our children 50 years from now, our grandchildren will look back and be like, man, that was the guy. That was like the biggest guy in politics when you were a kid, Grandpa. And like, yep, he sure was. He sure was. I got a lot of stories.
I think she could have, she kind of did like a feigned laugh and said like, talk about extreme. I think she missed a little bit of an opportunity there. She could have just been like, can you stop being so weird? Like she could have said something along those lines. I feel like her delivery could have been better there.
The delivery of the talk about extreme could have been better, but the facial reaction when the line happens was perfect.
Bro!
Yeah.
Did you see Frank Luntz? What the fuck he said about the vice presidents? Oh my God. No, hang on.
He said her looks aren't doing her any favors or something like that.
Yeah, he said she's got to train her face
to not react.
Yeah.
I don't really understand that. And in this particular moment, folks, it doesn't even matter whether
it's so fucking gross,
whether
bro.
it's true or not. So all of the people, all the sleuths being like, oh my God, is it true that there were cats and dogs being eaten by immigrants or whatever? You have these people putting up pictures of geese, like that matters at all. But like here's the thing. It doesn't even matter if it's true for multiple reasons. Number one, it doesn't matter because it's true, because even if it is true, there wasn't enough information at the time you made the claim to come to the determination that it was true. So if after the fact you find out that it's true, it doesn't help it because in the moment there wasn't enough basis to believe it. But number two, even if it's true, and even if you had enough information to know at the time that it was true, you're saying it apropos of nothing, and no one who's in normal America understands what's going on. And so when you say it, you sound crazy, even if what you were saying was completely true, and even if you have a rational basis for saying it. You need to, if you were going to ever drop that line, it would need to be with context, or you'd have to hope the moderator gave you the in. But no, it was just a disaster. But the facial expression, fixation is so weird from Luntz.
Yeah, it's pure fucking cope. So listen, Frank Luntz, top Republican pollster, someone I love quoting, especially when he goes off on Republicans. But this shit's gross. Like, if she wants to win, Harris needs to train her face not to respond. It feeds into a female stereotype and, more importantly, risks offending voters. He got ratioed to hell and back, as well he should.
This was Adams, one of Adams I'm sorry, Sitch. It was one of Sitch's big criticisms. It was like he didn't like the faces that she was making. And he was surprised that nobody was talking about it today. But that kind of taps into something that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys saw, but Nate Cohn, I thought, had a really kind of clever, accurate way of evaluating potential success or failure before the debate. He said, if after the debate we're all talking about Donald Trump, then she probably won. And if after the debate we're talking about immigration, the economy, blah, 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 then he would have won. And look what happened. Everybody's talking about him, talking about eating cats, and everybody's talking about him with the JD Vance thing. And there's like 4 or 5 just really terrible moments for him that everybody's talking about. And so
the rallies, I was just going to say, the rallies for me was the standout. Like, I know it's the obvious one, but that was the turning point.
It was the turning point.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
He's so fucking triggered about it. I'll be honest with you. I'm stunned that he didn't reference her AI rallies, right? I thought he was going to go down that road. But he managed to find some sort of self-restraint. But that was the highlight for me. And I guess the other low-key one, the not obvious one, was when he appealed to Viktor Orban.
Oh my God. Yeah.
If only the American people knew who Orban was.
Yeah.
In that moment, that was a really good moment for her, because like for Trump, I felt like, and it's something that I don't think Hillary did quite accomplish, and definitely Biden didn't accomplish, but Trump is essentially just a schoolyard bully in a state of arrested development. And the way that you deal with bullies is by cutting them down to size. And so for her to make reference to the fact that the world was laughing at him, I thought that was just so like surgically executed. She knew exactly what he was going to do. I kept on telling my chat for the last month, like, the benefit that she has going into this debate is he is very predictable. It didn't work in Biden's favor just because he wasn't up to the task, like physically, but somebody capable like her, knowing what he's going to do, knowing how he's going to react, you can just play somebody like a fiddle. And that's exactly what she did.
No, I think that I think it's so great that she went on offense, and that, you know, she attacked him where he is most vulnerable and hitting these Freudian, you know, hot points for him. I know some people, I saw, of course, some people are like, I can't believe she's, you know, so mean. And it's like, I have no tolerance for that. And I'm glad that most people are finally there, that the Michelle Obama playbook is gone, and we have to accept the world as it is. And it's okay to be a dick to somebody like Donald Trump because he deserves it. And it's really effective too. There's a reason that Charlie Chaplin made fun of Adolf Hitler, you know, back in the 30s. There's the best way to undermine a fascist strongman is to, you know, pick at their insecurities. So I totally agree with you, Hutch. She nailed that part.
Yeah, it was a really strong performance in that regard. I think that I'm glad that they appear to understand that baiting Trump works really, really well. And obviously it's because, like Hutch said, he is super duper crazily predictable. Now, one thing that I'm actually not so sure. I know, Hutch, you said that I guess maybe there's some more recent reporting. He says he's not committing to a second debate, but like, I don't know. I'm curious if that'll actually happen, because, you know, he gave some grief on this debate as well. Technically, there's no other debates that have been agreed to, but at the same time, it does feel pretty weird to end it on the vice presidential debate. And I mean, ultimately, I feel like if Trump is down in this race headed into, you know, mid-October or something like that, it's like, why wouldn't he call for another debate? It's like, hey, you know, Hail Mary, might as well take a shot at it, you know. But
don't you guys think that she should? I feel like she should just come out today and be like, let's do a debate on Fox News. Let's go. Like, yeah. I feel like she's demonstrated that she's, I think I would have full confidence that she would be able to. I mean, it would be tricky, but she could do it.
So, I mean, but the truth is, though, like, Fox News has hosted debates before. And I mean, look, like, I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal. They do pretty much the same job of moderating as like the other people who manage these. Like, I haven't seen the Fox News moderated presidential debate where it's like, oh my God, this moderating is unbelievable. Like, yeah, you might as well, you know.
Brett Baier is actually kind of fair, you know, like he's not a terrible.
But Trump went on the record today. He called into Fox and Friends. I did a video about it.
Only Sean Hannity.
Yeah, where he's like, Brett Baier and Martha McCallum, hell no. He's like, they are not fair at all. And he said, I want Jesse Waters, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham. And that's where I get nervous, because I agree with you. If it was just a generic Fox debate with somebody like Bayer and McCallum, who are going to, at the very least, engage in false equivalence, unlike the ABC moderators, and I would agree that the vice president should just go ahead and do it. However, use a different example. Do you all remember when Governor Newsom debated Ron DeSantis in that Sean Hannity moderated debate?
Yeah.
I remember that vividly, because I went in thinking Newsom was going to kill it, and he didn't. I mean, it wasn't a train wreck by any stretch of the imagination, but it was, at least in my opinion, we'll see what everyone else's standards are. It was an underwhelming.
No, I'm just
It was an underwhelming performance, because it was effectively a 2v1. And when every question is like, hey, California sucks on this particular thing and Florida is perfect, Governor Newsom, do you want to address that? Even with a seasoned debater like Gavin Newsom, who does it much more often than most Democrats, he really struggled. And so I guess my question is, number one, would you agree that it does depend on who the moderator is, or would you say no, even if it were Sean Hannity?
You shouldn't agree to that, the Sean Hannity stuff, because say what you want. Like, I would love to get into those debates where if we had Sean Hannity and them, and because I think that having a 1v3 or 1v4 and coming out on top is great, and I would feel super confident. If it were me, this is me, my tip fedora, right? But like, I don't know that these people don't live and breathe in that, and I think that you can end up having a big mistake there, and those particular moderators, you have a good excuse not to accept them, and also they're like absolutely going to do what they did for the Gavin Newsom debate, which was 100% stack it in DeSantis' favor.
It's a bit of a high risk. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, obviously it does, depend, right? I mean, but that's also because, like, Sean Hannity is more of a editorial sort of contributor to Fox News. It would be kind of odd. I mean, maybe there are examples of MSNBC or NBC or whatever doing this, where they take one of their more like opinion guys and have them moderate a presidential debate. But I don't know, for the most part, it's people like, your Don Lemons, or who's the your Savannah Guthrie, your people who I think
Chris
typically are, Chris Wallace's. I mean, I don't know, your people who at least contemporarily are going to call it relatively down the middle. I mean, there's always going to be, your Chuck Todd isn't quite the same as the equivalent on Fox News, because, naturally Chuck Todd's going to be, kind of a liberal leaning guy. But I don't know. I mean, you'd want to debate on that for, the standards of the debate, but I don't, so I agree. Ultimately, you want to keep it out of Sean Hannity's hands, but I don't know. I think that you want to push for that debate as much as you can, because it'd probably look pretty bad for Trump.
Well, Hutch, what about you? How do you feel about that? Because I know you're hype. You would tell her to take a Fox News interview, but does it matter who moderates?
Yeah, I think you're making compelling arguments. Like, I think maybe I'm a little bit like libbed up right now. Just get in there and fucking lion's den. But yes, you're right, because if the framing of the questions like really matter, obviously, and I don't have any confidence that Hannity would be an honest broker in that spot. But I do think that Trump was rattled from that debate. I do think he does not want to debate her, and I think it would be super alpha of her to be like, look, let's negotiate on which particular Fox News host gets to do this, but I will meet you on your turf. How could he say no to that? I mean, if he says no to a Fox News, I mean, his own people would be like, what the fuck? Like, Rob Noor would be like, wait, what, why not? And if he accepts it, I don't think it's going to go well for him. I think he's diminished, and I think he's just completely outclassed. And so to me, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of benefit there. No,
I was going to say too, I think that the next debate, wherever it happens, I think she's going to be even better, because even within the context of the debate that she had, she improved within that 90 minutes. Like, with each subsequent minute was better than the last. Like, she even I think we talked about this when it came to her campaign speeches. She has shown she's like a very quick study. She is clearly a very, very quick study, because each campaign speech was better than the last. And even like apples to apples comparison. So when she was heckled by the Palestinian or the pro-Palestinian protesters, and people criticized her initial reaction, even though a lot of people said actually it was pretty good, all things considered. But some said, okay, it was too harsh. So literally the next speech, just a few days later, she gets heckled again. And then she delivers a response that goes from like 50% approval to like 98%.
Yeah.
Like, she's so quick. And so I think even if it's just one other debate,
Yep.
I'm with you that all else being equal, even on an adversarial network like Fox, I would bet on her. But I would not. What I hope her campaign does not do is just cut a blank check. Yeah, fuck yeah, we'll debate you anytime, anywhere.
I don't
place.
think they would.
You can have Hannity, Waters, you can have Janine Pirro. It doesn't matter. We'll take
I don't
you
think they
all
would.
on.
I don't
Can we
think they
spend
would
a
do
few
that.
minutes on substance here? Because I want to talk a little bit about substance of what was actually said.
Sure.
And on that front, folks, this is a despotic vision of America that Trump is presenting as a country in decline, as a failed state. He is promising horrible measures. He, for example, this one always got to me when he's talking about healthcare. The notion that he would get rid of the Affordable Care Act with no plan, not even the contours of a plan that's been described. Or the
Concepts.
the concepts of the
Concepts.
plan that's been described, where he would
I
just
think,
be cavalierly, like, taking down a plan with no plan. He has 9 years to build. The notion that he still does not accept the results of the 2020 election. This guy is unfit to be in office and to be president ever again. And everything about the debate in substantial terms yesterday proved it. And even just their preparation for the respective debates, that should inform you. Who do you want being the leader of your business? Someone who just wings every fucking thing and throws insults, or someone who actually has a strategy, prepares for things, and doesn't look like they just got out of bed? It was disgusting performance from Trump in terms of demonstrating his fitness for the office in substantive terms. And I was repelled by everything he said substantively.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he governed like this as well, right? I mean, there was a moment when he was trying to repeal Obamacare where he did say, oh, we'll repeal it and then we'll figure it out later, right? Like he actually tried to do this when he was president. And obviously that didn't turn out super well for him, considering, his repeal plan ended up failing and, he couldn't get the votes on his own plan, which was this kind of complicated risk pool system, at least compared to our current system. And so it's not really surprising. I mean, this was a guy in 2016 who ran his plan to defeat ISIS. He was like, my plan to defeat ISIS is secret. I can't tell you what it is because then ISIS will know, right? We have to keep.
And do you remember
secret.
what the plan was?
I thought the plan was secret as far as I was aware, Hutch. I didn't.
When
realize
he
it got
took
leaked to
office,
the public.
the plan ended up being he told his generals to come up with a plan.
That's so funny.
That was the plan. I
And
give
it's the
you
same thing-
generals 30 days to come up with a plan. That was
And it's
his
the same
secret
thing with
plan.
Russia. He was asked, how are you going to stop the Russia thing, whatever. And he's not disclosing how, because and Harris called him out for it. It's like, you're just going to give it up. You're not going to support our ally anymore. This guy is a fucking a disgrace, a danger to everything that we care about, and just a bore. I fucking loved that moment in the abortion discussion where he's fumbling for anything to describe what's what his policy choice is, and the truth is he's just out for himself, and every answer he gave proved that.
Yeah. So the other interesting thing about his answer to Russia, not only was it vapid and obvious, the only way you could solve this thing in 24 hours is effectively blackmail the Ukrainians, which he has a history of doing, extorting the Ukrainians to just roll over for Putin. But the other thing is, and not for the first time, but he repeatedly hints, and he did it once in the debate, that he's violating the Logan Act by corresponding.
That's all passe at this point, Josiah. I mean, who cares about the Logan Act? I mean, it's so low on the list of horrible shit this man has done.
I know, and again, in a sane electorate, that in and of itself, wait a minute, you're not the president of the United States, but you're having sensitive, perhaps policy-changing correspondence with the head of state of a foreign government. Not only does that disqualify you, but you should have the FBI so far up your ass right now. It boggles the mind. But yeah, the response, I think we should also talk about too, the post-debate fallout, because it's ranged. Okay, as you know,
Taylor first.
Well, yeah, Taylor Swift, T Swizzle, she finally formally endorsed the vice president, and as a matter of fact, I saw she's gonna do
300,000 plus. 300,000 plus people.
Wow, Hutch knew exactly where you were going.
Visited vote.org using her specific link. the question I had was like, oh, how much of that is from the debate? How much is that from her? But no, it's from her specific link. It was
Yep.
3. Now, what's the conversion rate? Is it 20%, 10%? It's probably not 100%, right? But like, yeah, I mean, the last election was settled by 40,000 across 3 states. The one before that was 70,000 across 3 states. And so when the margins are this close, that could that literally could matter, like really matters. So it's,
dude, and MAGA is just fucking this up because they did it before. They arguably triggered her to publicly endorse the vice president. She says with that AI shit that Trump shared, a fake AI generated image of her endorsing him. Go ahead.
That was so her announcement was so her because she waited until the most obnoxious time, just like all the other men in her life. She kept it in and she like held this grudge for the longest time, and like she did not forget about that AI thing, and she made a post that was totally on the nose and like very done in her tone, which is like always the most on the nose, the most obnoxious way to do things, but in the classic Taylor way. And just the way that she did it, I think, was maybe the most annoying that it could have been for the MAGA crowd, especially coming off the heels of, I don't know if you guys are following the Brittany Mahomes thing, where so Brittany Mahomes is Travis Kelce's teammate, his wife's. Oh my God, I'm losing. What's
Mahomes'
Please go pull it together, man.
Is it Patrick Mahomes?
Oh my God,
it's Mahomes' wife.
Wait, what? I know, but I forgot his first name.
Patrick. Isn't it Patrick?
God.
Yeah.
Oh my
God
God.
damn, I've been shouting it for 7 years.
My bad. Okay. And she's a big Trumper. All right. And they had like hugged it out after being very much unsure about whether the relationship was going to be on the mend or something. And so MAGA was getting the inclination that maybe she is coming around to Trump, and she totally dashed those hopes.
It's not enough for me, Pisco. I need a free concert. I need T Swift.
You wanted it to happen at the
DNC. Fuck yeah, bro.
She needs to do it in October. Look, Lady Gaga's done free concerts. They're great. Love it. Love that for her. We need a T Swift one. It would really look. Lady Gaga did, I believe, it was a free concert in Pennsylvania. This was in a key state. Do the same thing, Taylor. Okay, get 200,000 people to show up in a park somewhere. All right, however possible that is.
Register people to vote outside. Like, hey, the price of admission is you just have to register to vote. We don't care who the fuck.
Listen,
yeah.
In this world,
talked about
great. I was gonna say quickly, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, Taylor Swift has great power in this society. She needs to use it for good. All right, and that means free Kamala Harris concert sponsored by Taylor Swift. We got to make it happen.
It also provoked the most. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Creepy, disgusting, deranged Elon tweet was wow. Like
it was
wow, like fuck, man. I feel like we've talked about it a bunch, but part of the Democratic strategy seems to be not just baiting Trump, but baiting like the MAGA movement at large.
These guys are weird.
To just be totally deranged, and for. I don't know if you want to pull up that tweet, Josiah, but or did he delete it? He might have deleted it, but
no way.
Yeah, no way.
So to give you guys some context, Taylor's tweet was all about like, hey, I have to come out and because of the truth, and like I respect Tim Walz because of everything he has to say about LGBTQ and specifically reproductive rights and IVF, and that he's always been a champion for that. And Elon claps back with, fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life. So in response to her long post, which included, being pro-woman and being pro-IVF and reproductive rights, his response is directly to Taylor, I'm going to impregnate you.
And protect your cat. Yeah, but yeah.
It's very weird.
It's hard to think of something just creepier. I mean, he's already just such a socially awkward guy, and so just coming from him, it just feels even more creepy than it would from like regular people.
Yeah, a guy who has like 10 kids with like 8 different women. He's a pretty weird guy overall.
The only guy. Well, I was just gonna
say it, Josiah. Say it. Get it out. Nobody say anything until Josiah says it.
No, it's like the only guy who'll make you root for Amber Heard, because they were married.
Don't get me started.
Wait, Elon was married to Amber Heard?
They were married or they dated, one of the two.
You don't want me to open this can of
Oh
worms.
my God, Grimes is never beating those weird allegations either.
What? No, go ahead, Hutch. Go on, open it. Unless you're
Open
going to
it
get us
on up.
canceled.
If we're gonna do like a little random tangent, okay, my chat is very familiar with this.
Go
The
ahead.
Johnny Depp trial to me was the most insane shit I've ever heard in my life. Like they were like the fact, like I felt like that was a modern witch burning. Like she is obviously a messy person. I'm not saying that, but like the fact that he was infantilized during that entire
Yeah.
thing, like all of his agency. Look at all the when the video came out of him smashing shit, like the manosphere framed that as though like she pushed him to the brink of doing that. The one thing that really stuck out to me the most is like the whole trial was like about a lot of it was about the fact that he was obviously in the advanced stages of alcoholism, like
100%.
advanced. And he was in a pub drinking beer when the verdict came out, and people were like laughing about that. Don't get me started on that. That I feel like that whole thing was like such a dark, like social moment for.
What's funny
culture.
is I sidestepped it the entire thing.
too.
I didn't watch 1 hour of that trial. I do know, however,
Yeah.
apparently it was told after the fact that trial and commentary surrounding that trial was the thing that gave us Good Logic and Rakita Law.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God, they were so gross this whole time. They were like, "Fuck Amber Heard," like this entire time, just standing Johnny Depp in the most despicable way. It was so gross, and honestly, what a horrible outcome, because they have been a stain on LawTube, and they have horrible legal takes, and they have fans for no reason. Everything they do and say is boring. And so, yeah,
Damn.
That Good
trial
Logic
really.
guy is honestly just a fucking loser when it comes to Trump. I mean,
The thing is, though, I kind of think he's a nice guy. I know that he.
That's why I said when it comes to Trump, there's some
Yeah.
people out there who have sold their soul to Trump that I'd probably, again, as a Star Wars fan, I could see myself sitting down and having a pleasant conversation with Ben Shapiro, but I have nothing but contempt for him because of his political views. And it's the same thing with Good Logic. I mean, the way that these people who are trained attorneys will twist themselves and knots over the Trump immunity decision in particular, is just so fucking gross. And he declassified it with his mind. Like I can't.
Oh my God,
can't
I
do
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about, I guess with our final few minutes here, I'm curious, what about the reaction? What's the reaction that you all have seen to this debate? I have been swimming in the more legacy side of things just for content today, but I am curious about, Sitch and Adam or other centrists like what Lex Friedman has said. I know Rob Noor said that.
What did Lex say?
Or no, that's what I'm curious. I don't know what know
Oh.
what Sitch and Adam or Lex Friedman have said. I saw that Rob Noor agreed that it was a disastrous debate performance, but I'm curious what the centrists and conservative commentators in our space, actual justice warrior, nuance bro, how they've been handling this.
It's the moderator cope, 100% all the
Yeah.
way through. They're all doing the moderator cope.
Yeah, the thing that's bizarre that nobody's brought up about that criticism is, oh, the moderators are horrible. I can't believe it. Can you believe it, guys? It's like, guys, you've been saying this about the guy for 10 years now. Okay, either he knows the moderators are going to be biased against him, so he should probably prepare for that, maybe. Like, if that's what you're saying, if you're saying the moderators are always biased against Trump, the media is always biased against Trump, wouldn't we expect at least, if you're saying this guy's playing 4D chess and he's going to be a great next president, wouldn't we think he would prepare even 1% for something like that, right? So again, with Trump, it's always, we're stuck between the rock and a hard place of like him being either being a complete and total doofus, right? Totally unaware of what's going on around him, or supremely incompetent. But in reality, it's probably both. Right, that's another thing about the moderator criticism that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and the fact checks were on the biggest whoppers that there's ever been. So like, they're eating cats and dogs, guys. Like, there's no evidence of that. Like, that's where we're at, folks. So according to the right-wing standards, he could say anything he wants, and there are no journalistic standards for the moderators to step in to be like, hang on a second, guys, this isn't true. Like, come on. And they let him get away with so many other lies.
Yeah, they gave him the last word on everything too. Like this idea that the moderators were in the bag against him is ridiculous. Abby, and what's her last name? Abby Phillip from CNN. She had a banger tweet. She's like, FYI, she works for CNN. She's like, FYI, asymmetric lying will get you asymmetric fact checking, which is precisely the attitude that all media should have if you are a professional journalist. If you're, a partisan commentator, that's different. I understand. But if you present yourself as a nonpartisan journalist, then yes, the person who lies more and more egregiously should, by definition, be fact checked more frequently and more strictly. I will say, give the devil his due, since we're talking about COPE and what centrists have had to say and conservatives. Piers Morgan came out and he hit Trump in the kidneys.
Yep.
With a public admission that Kamala beat his ass. And then, I was not expecting this, he dedicated an entire episode of Piers Morgan uncensored.
Is it worth seeing?
Yes. Fuck yes.
We were going to watch that earlier and then we didn't get to it.
But yeah, I know.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was gonna say that like an even better indication that she won, aside from people like Piers Morgan and Rob Noor conceding it, Hassan gave her an 8.5. That's a solid B right there. He did.
Now I got to change my score higher. Okay, that might be the thing to finally tip me over, Hutch. Hassan,
perfect. Yes, you're giving him the same grade.
Hassan actually had some like unironic, incredibly funny reactions to some of the debate performance. I encourage you guys to watch the clips.
I still feel like Hassan's political instincts are not the best. Like she brought up the fact that Goldman Sachs projected that her economic policies would result in less deficit spending and higher GDP. And I there was one other metric that I'm not remembering right now. And he was complaining that she was touting this
Goldman Sachs bad.
It's Goldman Sachs. Yeah, it's like, bro, she's not endorsing like Wall Street. I mean, she's not endorsing like unfettered like banking or anything like that. All she's doing is she's just pointing to the fact that they said that there would be better economic circumstances.
Oh,
like, why would we run away from that?
Speaking of that, Hutch, and things, endorsements / whatever, I'm curious to ask you, Conaboy and Josiah, actually, and you, Hutch, and me, about the Dick Cheney reference. What do you think about that?
Actually, I have pretty mixed views on this. I'm pretty open to being swayed either way. I don't think it's a good thing to tout presently at least, I'm open to being convinced, but I don't think it's a good thing to tout the endorsement of Dick Cheney. I think, frankly, was it literally Trump during the debate that, brought up, maybe this was a question that was asked at some point. I can't recall, but I think it's fair to say, like, look, Democrats have had really, really harsh criticisms for Dick Cheney for a long time. And all the criticisms are like pretty reasonable. And I think to really tout his endorsement is, probably not a good look, because just because Dick Cheney's voting for you, that does not mean that you really want his endorsement. I know it was on the Piers Morgan episode. I remember where it was. You guys probably remember Piers Morgan and Destiny had this back and forth, and kind of disagree with Destiny on that one. I don't think it's probably good to celebrate that endorsement.
Before Hutch responds, can I just get out for a middle of the road?
Yeah. Of course.
I was just going to say, I think that I see a scenario where you can skillfully weaponize that endorsement, but what you should not do, and I believe this was a mistake that was made by the Harris campaign, is to like celebrate it, to say, I'm proud to have it. Instead, some variant of, I have enormous disagreements with Vice President Cheney, both on policy and principle. And all I will say is the fact that he is endorsing me is proof that Donald Trump is that manifestly unfit for office. But I would not be praising Cheney or engaging in revisionist history.
She's going the extra mile.
Yeah. And I think that that's a mistake.
Yeah, saying proud to have his endorsement is kind of where I'm at, Josiah, where it's like, I'm not proud to be endorsed by fucking Dick Cheney, okay?
Agreed.
But it is certainly of note that someone like Dick Cheney is endorsing someone like Kamala Harris, and making that note is certainly could be a politically effective message, but I just think it's going a little bit too far, I think.
But that wasn't for people like you and me. That wasn't for like resistance lib voters. That was for Nikki Haley primary voters. Yeah. And I will entertain Piers Morgan's hypothetical of what if Satan endorsed Kamala, if her accepting Satan's endorsement gave her more votes and pushed her over the edge, then I say she is morally obligated to accept Satan's endorsement.
Yeah,
The ends justify the means. This is politics. So I felt
it's something
like
I'm
that
a
was
little bit
fine.
uncomfortable with because it results in you saying, okay, that I am willing to really take any policy pivot so long as it's popular and so long as it's effective in getting votes. So dangerous is the prospect of Donald Trump getting into office. And
We're not talking about policy.
Sure, but policy, campaign strategy, associations embracing it, the kind of like. So I understand people who are like, "Hey, I'm uncomfortable declaring close to unconditional support for a candidate because of the opposition, and basically justifying anything done in the name of winning." I think that on balance, I understand Hutch. I think Hutch is correct that she's not losing anybody by doing that, and she's potentially gaining people by doing it. I don't think anyone who was going to vote for Haley is going to be like, "Oh, Dick Cheney's saying that she likes Haley, now I'm not going to vote for her." But at the same time, I think that like Econoboy and Josiah are doing, we need to have our antennas tuned for that and notice it. And to the extent that we think that it goes too far, like we just did, tell them to tamp it back, because I don't think that we should ever be in a situation where we are like accepting everything at face value from these politicians.
I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, and obviously, I don't really expect, I don't really expect Kamala to make this part of her stump speech of like, and by the way, the Honorable Dick Cheney endorsed.
Good
I don't think that's going to happen. Great guy, Dick Cheney. This is my new voice, Kamala Harris. 2024.
Can you imagine if she did a Trump impression at the debate?
Well, she's stealing all of his policies. Might as well steal his voice too. Pisco.
The tip thing,
the sovereign wealth fund. Okay.
You know what? Honestly,
stealing all of his policies. The Chinese tariffs.
I'm going to say I don't agree with the tip thing, but I don't care. That's one thing where I don't care, but I don't agree with it.
I don't think the tip thing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not a big deal. I think that's pretty funny criticism, though. Of like, and you've seen like some. It's actually kind of funny because you've seen like some members of the left, quotation marks. They'll say like, "Oh, Trump is outflanking Harris from the left with policies like this," and it's like, that's not. You're really dumb if you're saying that. I'm sorry, sir.
When you said the left there, I have my call out of the week. My call out, and I'm sorry, it's against the dirtbag left, and it's against Red Scare and those Adam Friedland type people. And this is why these bozos think they're so cool, they're so above it all, that they're all this, irony pilled losers who just want to be on the cutting edge and oppositional. This is a shout out to Anna from Red Scare, or it's not shout out, sorry. A call out from Anna from Red Scare, talking all sorts of shit like it's shameless and female emotional terrorism for Kamala to be talking about going after rapists and scammers. That was her tweet, but it's not shameless for you to talk about the pressing need to stop the widespread cannibalism of America's pets. I guess it's not cannibalism, the eating of America's pets, or the shamelessness of refusing to accept the results of a free and fair election. These irony poisoned, above it all freaks who are best friends with these crypto fascists, Peter Thiel and other like tech bros. You know what I'm talking about, the Curtis Yarvin type people. It's disgusting. I hate it. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. They're funny, but that comedy is over. And when you don't have anything to stand on, and if you don't ever wear your heart on your sleeve, there's something a little bit soulless about you. And I look into their eyes, and I actually don't see a soul. And so that's my call out. The dirtbag left, the Adam Friedland types, those people, maybe less so Adam Friedland himself, but certainly Red Scare. They're just gross.
We saw Jill Stein. We saw Jill Stein liking. Did you guys see that she liked a couple tweets that essentially was like,
I have nothing.
Vote for Trump if you have to, but Kamala has to lose, and she liked the tweets. It's just fully mask off. It's insane.
Yeah, well, like nothing but contempt for these people, 100%. I was just gonna say real quick on because we're gonna have to go here in just a second. Fuck. Hutch said something. What was it? God damn it! Go ahead, Econoboy. I can't remember.
I was gonna say
Satan endorsement. Endorsement from Satan. Okay.
My co-host on the Three Wonks, he actually wrote a piece about some of the polling that came out, which was pretty interesting. I think it's actually pretty grounding, this polling. It's very important to keep in mind. Your Green Party stands on Twitter, okay? Your Brianna Greyjoy type socialists who are just like too good to vote for Kamala Harris. Interesting polling came out. A lot of the times when polling gets released, they bisect the polling. Do you identify conservative or liberal in like that spectrum? But that's obviously not really the political spectrum, right? There are some portion of people who would identify outside of the conservative liberal spectrum, like people who identify as socialists. And there was some polling that came out who said that of the people who identify as socialist, 90% of them are voting for Kamala Harris, right? The percentage of even far left people, presumably as socialists consider themselves far left. I mean, it'd be kind of weird if they didn't. The percentage of people who are very far left who are voting for not Kamala Harris is very small in real life. It's a very small group of people. And, people have said this, oh, well, eventually Twitter online politics is going to become real life politics. Look, it's been a decade. I'm not saying it'll never happen. It just hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. They just really don't represent a really large number of people at all. So take solace in that, folks.
Well, we have reached the 90-minute mark. I'll just say in summation, since I can't remember what it was that Hutch said so brilliantly that inspired me, and then it went right out the fucking window.
It's been a long week.
It has been a long week. Pisco, I know for a fact, and I believe Econoboy as well, perhaps Hutch, have some ideas about how to better structure Live and Learn. And we're going to cook some of those ideas up, and I'm just going to do what I'm told because I don't have the bandwidth for it. Also,
we're going to go to the lab. I like it when sports players are like, I'm going to the lab. I like that.
Interesting. Well, I have no idea what that's about, but I'll take the word for it.
No, but like, maybe some intro music, maybe some like a place where we can put all our VODs, because right now it's all scattered to the wind. And so we're gonna us three, perhaps. I know Hutch also runs a channel, and I know that Econoboy also runs a channel, and I have a full job, but we'll find a way to not that you guys don't have jobs. You guys have jobs. Sorry, I'm just
what the fuck, man.
You guys all have jobs. You guys
not
are
all of us sell feet pictures.
I will try to make
fans like you do.
Extra efforts, and in conjunction with Econoboy and Hutch to try to glam up Live and Learn and have it be more organized and have a place where people can go to see our stuff.
And also, speaking of content, it should be said, because Hutch hasn't said this, but he is back on YouTube, putting out content on YouTube, doing politics on YouTube, and will be simul streaming on YouTube too moving forward.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to stay on Twitch for now. But yeah, I brought on an editor. I'm super happy with the content that he's putting out so far. It's like really, really polished. And youtube.com/Hutch. If you guys want to give me some love with likes and algorithm stuff, that'd be awesome.
Give him a follow.
100%.
Econoboy 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Pondering doesn't need it. He's fine. He's blowing up.
And Pisco too.
I don't have a YouTube yet.
Yeah, but we're simul streaming here, so there are people here that are on Twitch and elsewhere as well. They follow people on, like, we're also streaming on Twitter. Hutch,
True.
Could you do that? Would that be a violation of like your Twitch situation if you were to simul stream on Twitter?
I think they allow it now.
I'm pretty focused on Twitch right now. I mean, that might change in the future. We'll see.
Just violate your contract. Who cares?
Yeah. No, there's no exclusivity. I can stream elsewhere.
You have an open relationship with Twitch.
They changed some of their global standards as well, I think.
A porous relationship, one might
say.
Yeah.
Well, good chat with you fellas.
Yeah.
Much love.
It's great talking.
And I love you all. And
are there any really quick, are there any big political things happening in the next week? I feel like we've had a big few weeks. We've got DNC debates, things like this. Is there any planned political thing?
I think we're just going to have a ton of good content because from the aftermath of this debate, I think it's just going to, and we're in the final sprint now. So it's going to be heavy content for the next 60 days for sure.
The Schadenfreude that we'll all get to experience.
And if you want to see, there's a Trump Harris is who's the better leader debate on Dylan Burns' channel that I'm going to be on.
And Hutch.
Wait, Hutch. Oh, you're going to be on there. Oh my God. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. We'll be on there along with, that's right. You started the whole chat. Oh my God. With IRI.
Erudite and IRI. Yeah.
And we'll be against Andrew Wilson, Rob Noor,
Admiral Gibbs. Yeah.
And who else?
Can't remember.
Doesn't matter. But we'll be there on Friday. Probably on Hutch's channel / Dylan Burns or it may be mine.
I debated Rob the other day, by the way. There's a VOD of it up on my channel. And
it's worth watching. Yeah.
I saw it.